That's why. Sorry, here. Oh, we didn't hear
For
anything.
those who are still watching the live stream and it's recorded thing, yes, the first few minutes were in utter silence.
Oh, that was helpful.
Thank you, Andre, for telling us.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And it was like I had switched the audio na nga, but then I guess it. You know how sometimes it jumps when you're
because you
talking to the
reset,
menu, huh?
because you were lost.
No.
Series.
So nobody heard our discussion. So oh well. Recap live stream. Waiting for people. Jump ahead if you are watching the recorded version. Otherwise,
Yeah,
please
but if people are watching
like
the
and share.
recorded version, they probably already would have left.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the first few minutes were that.
Sorry to worry you, Andre, but thank you for chiming in.
Maybe we can edit the descriptor. Please note that the first 10 or so minutes.
It's
were
not the
in
first 10, it's like
silence.
3 minutes. This is what you have when you don't have like you don't have a tech team to help check audio levels and whatnot. It's all us, and I'm just frustrated over crash landing on you. So
We're not frustrated. We're enjoying it.
ah, you're I'm annoyed at how much you're enjoying it. It's really like if it were but this if it were me watching really bad horror, it would be the equivalent of me slapping you and like injuring you. That's like the level of your reaction. I think. I think.
But it's a good moment.
In other news, though, hey, congratulate me! I finished the haunting of Bly Manor,
Yes. Then we can now make that an episode.
which is like not scary. Thankfully, the first one was
Yeah, the first one really was more.
the haunting of
it
an
really
Hill
wanted
House.
to-
That was super
to
scary.
find all the ways to scare you.
Yeah, yeah.
From the bowl hat man to the bent neck lady. To,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they found every single way to add a new wrinkle to the horror, and it was
Mhm.
well done. Bly Manor was really more a. I really feel like the guy plays RPG games, and I'll make a show inspired by this RPG because it's so on the nose with so many systems. And then the next show, which is Midnight Mass, feels very vampire. Naman.
Oh, okay. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay, still feel bloated.
Uh, we should like okay. We'll do hot tea later.
Yeah.
All right. So, and the usual drill. If you're watching, it helps us know if you're there. If you leave comments so that we can interact and incorporate your feedback into the show. Otherwise, now that you can hear us, we'll get things started in a bit. So let me put the live stream reminder away, and we'll be right back.
Oh yeah! Really right!
This is Toby.
And this is Rocky.
And if it's your first time here, welcome to Baduy Pride, our little space on the internet where we talk about anything we want.
It's completely unscripted and not entirely accurate, but at least it's honest. Join us as we talk about everything and anything random live.
And if it's not your first time here, thank you so much for joining us again. Today we are talking about a show which is so quirky it just works. And that show is Doom Patrol.
Yeah, and we'll try to tackle like them as a team, of course, to help provide context.
The comic roots,
Yeah.
the actors who are in the show, our hopes of where the stories will go, our joys of what paths it had taken. Ultimately, this is all about Doom Patrol, and feel free to join the conversation by sending in the comments anything you have in mind, and we'll incorporate them if we can.
We have recently finished the third season, so there may be inevitable spoilers. I mean, we're going to try to avoid
Spoiler
discussing specific plot points of the show thus far.
Spoiler shark!
Um,
But admittedly, by talking about certain plot points,
it
even
may,
if we don't spoil you, we will confuse you.
that's fair, and that's a good flavor of Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol always make me feel like in that same era of things like, which is probably I don't know if it's accurate me saying this, things like Challengers of the Unknown or like
Yes.
all these weird non-Justice League teams that float around the DC universe.
Which is not a surprise given Doom Patrol did first originally appear back in the 1960s.
Yes.
It appeared in My Greatest Adventure issue number 80 that back in 1963, created by writers Arnold Drake and Bob Haney,
I would say Haney.
along with artist Bruno Permiani. Um, the comic showcases a group of misfits,
They really stress misfit heroes.
and
yes.
there is no denying you will see certain parallels to later incarnations of superhero groups.
Yeah, we watched this video that stressed like it is a funny coincidence that a team of misfit heroes led by a guy in a wheelchair debuted about 3 months before the
Mhm.
X-Men hit newsstands,
Mhm.
which is about a group of misfit teens led by a guy in a wheelchair. Although at least that guy in a wheelchair had powers.
But then even that parallelism sort of echoes the other parallelism wherein you have one guy who's super smart, one guy who's super strong and thinks he's a monster,
Mm.
one guy who kind of flies around and is an energy form of some
Mm.
form, and then someone who stretches.
Yes. So it does sound like a Fantastic Four analog,
Yeah.
except they're a very dysfunctional family.
But basically, dubbed as the world's strangest heroes, Doom Patrol's original roster includes Chief, who is Niles Calder,
The guy
ma-
in the wheelchair.
the guy in the wheelchair who is super smart. In I think some incarnations, it was even just the brain and not the guy in the wheelchair. I think there was a later incarnation of the
But
Doom.
may not be don't confuse him with
Yes,
the evil
yes,
brain,
that's different.
who is the enemy.
But then you have Robot Man, who is Cliff Steele, who um, embodies your "I wish I didn't have such an inhuman body."
Mm.
Um,
It's a human brain in a robot body.
so it sort of touches on all the later manifestations of that trope, whether it's the Thing or brain's not working right now, Cyborg, and so on and
Mm.
so forth. You have Elastigirl, Rita Farr, who um, in the comics was not trying to be Mr. Fantastic, but basically hit the Silver Age explorations of Gigantic Woman and Shrinking Lady and all this and that in one go.
Yeah, her power set actually looked a bit more like Ant-Man,
Yeah.
Giant Man, than Mr. Fantastic.
And then you have Negative Man, which is Larry Traynor, who I don't remember as much as I wished I did.
You just always see that guy in the bandages.
Yeah, but I remember Negative Man more when there was now Negative Man and Negative Lady.
Ah.
Because at the later,
okay.
I was reading the later part of Doom Patrol where there were now two of them, and they were always the pair in bandages that was always strange.
Okay. Okay. And I don't know. Did you encounter it before? It was like I would see it on the side, or I think my closest encounter with Doom Patrol is probably one of the Amalgam comics,
Mm.
big during that big DC Marvel crossover. But I could be wrong because I know they had the Metal Men as a part of an Amalgam concept, but
Mm.
I'm not sure if there was something else.
I know my encounters with Doom Patrol were the Grant Morrison era.
Mm.
That was where you had the really strange stories, including I forgot the something of Dada, the Brotherhood,
Brotherhood of Dada.
You had the Sister Men and so on and so forth. It was also in Doom Patrol that we encountered Dorothy Spinner, who was, to use the comic terms, an ape-faced lady, like ape-faced girl,
Yeah.
who happened to have the ability to call her imaginary friends to life.
Yeah, just that her imaginary friends are quite scary. But anyway, that's
Mm.
kind of the main plot of season 2. But okay.
And then there was Rebus, who was a black doctor who had a strange. I can't quite remember her powers right now, but it had to do with reality something.
Okay. Yeah, so they're definitely one of the sort of weirder side characters, but then they have an ongoing following, and I think the Grant Morrison run, which is like
May I?
volume 2, is
Sorry,
really
keep going.
what I think is really what kind of put them on the map again after
Mm-hmm.
their kind of original 1960s incarnation. I mean, like they come back here and there, but then that really helped them shine and give them a place
Mm-hmm.
in modern comics. And then, but it was still a bit of a surprise to hear them getting
A TV
a
show.
TV show. Yeah, I mean, like it's the equivalent of Marvel deciding to do an Eternals movie. It's like, oh, okay. I mean, they're okay characters. They have their own stories, but then is this really something that needs to be adapted?
Mm. And again, I realized now Challengers of the Unknown also had
Oh, they were the super Fantastic Four
an
analog.
indestructible
Super,
guy.
and they're also family,
Fire.
right?
Yeah.
So,
No, they also rode a rocket that went to
ah,
space.
yeah. That was the Challengers plot. Okay.
So many think that Doom Patrol is a spin-off of Titans because they are aware of Doom Patrol through the TV show.
They kind of had a semi. I wouldn't call it a backdoor pilot, but they
Hmm.
did have like an early cameo on Titans before the actual Doom Patrol
Yeah.
show
But
started.
what people don't realize is that the comics came much earlier than Titans itself,
Yes,
and in many ways, it set the groundwork for a lot of other teams to form up and connect.
I like the revelation that Beast Boy debuted in the Doom Patrol
Mm.
comics. When, admittedly, I'm in the generation of people who, or at least I have the level of exposure where I always assume he just showed up on Titans,
Hmm.
or yeah. So Teen Titans, whether the comic or in the shows, then you always assume Beast Boy is there.
Now, just like any comic that has its history and roots in the Silver Age, or had Grant Morrison as a writer at some point in its line,
Which is a lot of comics now.
Doom Patrol is also popular, if not infamous, for its weird selection of characters.
Noel, hey Noel.
You have the oddest villains, such as Animal, Vegetable, Mineral Man. You have
It's a good name.
the most Silver Age of villains, wherein we have Monsieur Mala,
Wait,
which is
I
the
love
intelligent gorilla.
I love the Brotherhood of Evil
Yes.
because again they are led by the Brain, who
Yes.
is your classic evil brain in a jar,
Mhm.
who is brought around by Monsieur Mala, the intelligent gorilla.
Yes,
And then who are the other things?
Madame Rouge.
Madame Rouge is another elongated, malleable person of the light. But sorry, but you have me on board with Brain in a Jar
Mhm.
and an intelligent gorilla.
But then, as mentioned, since Morrison eventually joins them, that introduces all the other characters from Crazy Jane, who suffers from multiple personalities, which each have a power. To Danny the Street, who is a sentient street, and I always
I
found
love
myself
Danny the
thinking
Street.
Danny the Street was related to Gilbert.
Oh, like
the Endless.
yeah, because
Fiddler's-
Fiddler's Green.
Yes, because it's like I'm a street and you're a grove or something, so maybe you're related. Then you of course had those villains. There was the Red Jack,
Hey, RJ.
who lives in a house without mirrors and tortures butterflies to create the pain he needs to survive. The Scissor Men are a race of beings that attack non-fictional beings in the real world. They cut them out of reality, so on and so forth. And more like that. It led to the Candle Maker, who was a big villain at some point in time. And if I remember comics correctly, he had like a faucet or something on his head. Um, yeah, weird villains.
RJ's here too. Hello. So Noel's like, whatever happened to Doom Patrol the series? I think he stopped watching at episode 2 of the second season. It finished their third season. That's why we're talking about this now.
Mhm.
And they've been confirmed for a fourth.
And it's really good. If you're a fan of the comics, yes, you will get all the weirdness you want plus more because they did try to adjust some of the
Yeah,
storyline.
things kind of get moved around.
But at the same time, it still is done, at least in our opinion, in a very satisfactory way. It still feels like the story makes sense in its insanity,
You just wanted Flex Mentalo.
although he wasn't the fuzzy flex.
He wasn't fully Flex for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
For
All right.
those who are wondering, Flex Mentalo was one of the superheroes in a leopard spotted leotard. Is that correct?
Essentially, some animal print.
And he uses his powers by flexing.
And it's like, I don't know, it's like straight out reality manipulation, right?
Mhm.
I mean, his power set's crazy. Okay, so Doom Patrol, the show, was developed for TV by Jeremy Carver. And then it initially debuted on the weird streaming service DC Universe, which is
Mhm.
like something I've never, we don't typically see access here. more commonly in Asia and places outside the US, you probably get it through um, some version of HBO. So we get it from the HBO Go Asia app, or officially it's an HBO
Mm.
Max brand. Um,
Yes, Noel Flex as in flexing.
yes, he just poses and
Because
stuff
he is
happens.
his official title is the Man of Muscle Mystery.
See, and then look at Wikipedia. It's listed. His abilities are flexing muscles can alter reality.
Hmm?
He just wishes
And
things
then
to
whenever
happen.
he flexes, he has that hero halo, and it says "Hero of the Beach."
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. He's like that guy from the old comic book ads. Like
Best illustrated by Frank Whiteley, but also illustrated by other artists.
ah yeah, combination in heaven for Toby. It's like ooh, Frank Whiteley art and then a character like Flex Mentallo. Quite awesome. Okay, so the show has been around since 2019, but again, yeah, there was the weird like aspect that they did sort of cameo
Mm.
on Titans first, which is a show we've not really watched
Yeah,
because I don't have the
we
patience
didn't
for drama.
we didn't relate with it as much as we wanted. And mind you, we're suckers for drama.
No,
We
but you
loved
haven't really
Legion.
watched the pilot.
Legion was like super heavy drama.
Well, not angsty teen
Exactly.
drama.
So we kind of like drama in a certain way, like crash landing on.
That's not even drama. No, no. Episode 4 was so good.
It was four, right?
Yes, it was 4.
Going on. Titans, Beast Boy came from Doom Patrol muna.
Yes, comic book wise,
Comic
yes.
books, yes.
Okay, so the show still, um, in terms of our core cast, it brings us. We still have the chief
Mm-hmm.
character.
Good.
And then they have the kind of main core roster of Larry Trainer
So the
or
chief
Negative
is
Man.
played brilliantly by Timothy Dalton.
Oh my God, Timothy Dalton, such a good choice. He's so hammy, but but it's a good hammy.
You
Like I love it. I
you
love it.
can feel he's a Silver Age hero when he was
Yes,
younger, and
yes.
so you can also feel annoyed that he's now just so pathetic as the old man. But it has that nice impact. For those who are wondering who Timothy Dalton is, if you watch Penny Dreadfuls, he
Oh,
is
he
Sir
was
Malcolm Murray.
he really fits in this like old timey
Yes.
kind of concept.
If you are a fan of Doctor Who, he was the narrator and President Rassilon. If you also watched other shows, then you'd probably know him from Hot Fuzz or from The Rocketeer
He was the bad
or
guy in the Rocketeer.
or from Flash Gordon and so on and so forth. And of course, we can't forget James Watt.
Yes. He reminds me a little bit of Sean Connery. That makes sense because he was a Bond.
Yes.
Okay. Um,
After, of course, the Chief, we have our main man, Robot Man. Robot Man is played by two people.
yeah, physically it's a guy named Riley Shanahan. So he is the guy in the suit
Yes,
on set.
who does the body acting with the robot costume. But then Cliff Steele, the human persona, and on those odd occasions when we do see Cliff Steele on the show, is played by Brendan Fraser.
And we had an episode all about Brendan Fraser. Hey, since then, I've made Toby watch Mrs. Winterborn.
See, that's just like K dramas, and you love that one.
I appreciate that one. I love it. And it was still a lot more subdued than that
I
craziness
killed
we
him.
just saw.
So I'll follow up you. Okay. Going on. After Cliff Steele and Robot Man, we have
Larry Trainer is Negative Man, and you have sorry, Matt Bomer, who is the Larry Trainer voice, but then also physical performances by Matthew Zup as Negative Man. Yeah, and then April Bowlby as Rita Farr. Oh, she's such a good Rita Farr.
and she's
I love her.
I'm checking to see where else we may have seen
I
her.
super love her on the show.
So we see Drop Dead Diva, How I Met Your Mother. She was Meg.
Crazy Meg. Interesting.
She had a role in The Heathers. She had a role in Big Bang Theory.
Two and a Half Men. She had more stuff.
Yeah. CSI. Yeah, okay. But she does her role very well.
Andre asking, does Doom Patrol interact with Justice League or Teen Titans in the comics? To
Yes,
some degree,
there
yes.
have been encounters in the comics. There have been crossovers throughout the years. Some of the teams were working with them at some instances, but it never lasts long because they're just too weird.
And then and I think, especially post Morrison, then it really became this like,
Mm-mm.
they get the lesser known, very strange adversaries and problems.
Because Doom Patrol still did have their
Oh, they had a special crossover
yeah
in 2018. Oh.
the Milk Wars. See, the moment it's a Doom Patrol crossover, you know it's gonna be weird.
Yeah. Okay. Um, the first season will set you up interestingly with a narrator, with Alan Tudyk as the narrator, and
Mhm.
then this is not quite a spoiler because it super defines the trailer. It's just that and he's the antagonist at least of the first season or so.
Yes,
So why is the villain of the show the narrator? It works. It super
Mister
works.
Nobody.
Yes, it super works. But that's the initial framing
Mm-hmm.
device, which I thought was a very clever idea.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and then there are other aspects of the characters that they kind of really pushed in. They kind of really lead into. So here, Larry Trainer is not just coded, but is clearly portrayed as being homosexual. Um, it is a uh, it is. I mean, just all of them are experiencing pain, and that's like his lingering thing. He's
Mm-hmm.
this old. He's this. He should be an old man now, but he's been kept, in almost stasis at the point of his encounter with the negative spirit,
Yeah,
um, and so on and so forth. I'm sorry, I didn't mention Crazy Jane.
and Crazy Jane, played by Diane Guerrero, who we all probably remember more from
Orange is the New Black.
or Jane the Virgin.
Jane the Virgin. Yes, so good.
She so stepped into her own role and captured the hearts of so many people with this role.
Andrea had
Uh,
a follow up question if they also were a part of
I don't
Injustice.
believe that they were ever part of Injustice.
But we're not big on Injustice,
Yes.
so I can't really speak to that with any degree of confidence. But yeah, and then yeah, Noah's also Jane the Virgin. So it's just so funny because in Jane the Virgin, she's super. She was the
Ditzy.
ditzy, but like insistent, very strong, light personality because she was the
Mm,
best friend. And then even in in Orange is the New Black, she was a little moxie, but they were the pair of pretty girls in the
mm.
prison and like all that stuff. But as Crazy Jane, she's very
I'm a
broody,
bit weirded
heavy.
out though that I remember the earlier episodes. She was pretty much playing the other personalities, except
Mm,
for a few. There were a few personalities that were distinctly different, like Hammerhead,
yes,
but the others were still kind of her.
yeah.
But now, like most are not her anymore.
Mm.
So I'm kind of wondering if that's a plot point they're building up to.
Yeah. So Crazy Jane is really interesting, both as I mean, even from her comic book character to even here, because it's one thing to have multiple personality, but then to manifest different superhuman abilities based on the personality that is in control of the
Mm,
body at the time is such a striking concept. I mean, like the closest thing you'll get to it are like people with the sort of multiple power set. I don't know, things like Dial H for Hero
yeah.
or Husk. Was it Husk in Marvel who rips her skin off
Mhm.
and then she had a different
But of
ability?
course, other than both, we cannot ignore Legion himself.
Mm.
David Charles Haller, the son of Xavier and Gabrielle
On the
Haller,
Marvel side, yes.
did have multiple personalities, each one with their own power set. There also is a TV series that is just as amazing, if not, I'd actually feel more amazing, only because I like the poetry of the Legion series
Yes.
more than Doom Patrol. But I love Doom Patrol as a superhero series.
Yeah. And I think what's in terms of like comparing, because we love Legion, we love Doom Patrol, but Legion was brave in that it really struck up on its own. And
Hmm.
like it created a largely original story with these characters. There are the occasional borrowed plot elements from comics, but Legion is it's its own self-contained thing. Whereas Doom Patrol has been very generous in like looking for comic book storylines to dredge up and to bring into things, or at the very least, uh, the stories surrounding certain characters, and then kind of bring them through. So things like encounters like Danny the Street. I love
Mhm.
Danny the Street.
So I just checked. Crazy Jane, which was created by Grant Morrison
Hmm.
for Doom Patrol, was 1989. Legion was 1985 in the New Mutants.
Hmm. But then, like, his power set wasn't super clear in the beginning, diba? I mean, he was powerful, but
Multiple personalities.
yeah.
Each one had its own power. So he would call out the name of certain personalities to use the power.
Okay, yeah. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. The weird relationship between Doom Patrol
Mm.
and X titles. Okay. Um, what else about the show? Okay, so uh, yeah, I mean, season, but so far each season has a pretty tight arc in
Yeah.
terms of like there will be a general antagonist, and we build up to that, and
Mm.
then season two still felt that way. Season three
Season
also,
2 did suffer from the pandemic. So
yes,
according to Wikipedia,
it ended
they,
earlier
they
than it
didn't
should.
get to shoot the finale for
Yes,
season 2. And that's why for some of you who might be watching season 2, you might feel it's a bit abrupt or it's a bit
and then it's
um
like an odd number of episodes, right?
yeah.
It like ends with I think 9. Yeah, it's like the first season is 15 episodes. The second season's only 9, and then
Mm.
this third season is exactly 10 to kind of keep things clean.
But stuff to keep in mind if you will try watching the show, you'll have to let go of your preconceptions.
Okay.
This isn't Justice League, this is not X-Men, this is not Marvel Cinematic Universe. Um, Cussing is very common.
Mostly from Robot Man.
Sexual references and imagery will be present. So be aware because you might be watching with your parents, and the next thing you know, you'll have ghosts fucking in the background. Oops, I said the F word. But that's what the show's like.
There goes monetization.
So you'll have to pay attention to the fact that this show might not be the cup of tea for everyone.
Yeah. And then what's this? And unlike your, I mean, what's this? They are the epitome of reluctant heroes.
Yes.
They are brought together by circumstances, mainly Niles Calder, because he, to some degree, has been helping all of them. Like he
Mm.
helped Negative Man after his accident. He helped save Cliff by the robot body.
Mhm.
He's treating Jane. All of these things. So they are essentially all his patients, and not necessarily just a big hero
Mm.
team. So when bad things happen, they're not exactly rushing out to save the
Yes.
world. More often than not, they are caught at the right place at the wrong time
Mhm.
and will just barrel through things.
For people who love tabletop role playing games, you might find yourself relating with the characters of the show so much because they're almost like a group of player characters who are thrust
Yes.
into a situation and they're annoyed. They know that it's not their fault and they can't, they hate that they're the ones who have to deal with it.
Mm-mm.
So it has those nice instances.
Yeah, there is a lot of them going, really? Really? So by the like, not a major spoiler, but by the third season, when bad things happen, they just accept like because this is the stuff that they deal with.
Hmm.
They know that it's going to be the bizarre problems and not your classic straight up hero fight. Um, the supporting cast of Doom Patrol is quite fantastic. There are a number of interesting characters who have come in and out of the show. Alan Tudyk really defines the first season. I'm sorry, he's really good at Mr.
Yeah.
Nobody. It's sort of like as conversant as Wash, but as evil as Alpha from Dollhouse.
Other characters who come in later include, and we'll state only the actor names so that you'll still be surprised what roles they play if you're a fan of the comic. But Mark Shepard will be present. Michelle Gomez, who we love from Doctor Who, will be in the
Yes,
show or
still playing
has been in the
herself.
show. Abby Monterey is also present in the show. Stephanie, I will not be able to say that name. But yeah, it's there.
No, the Mark Shepard involvement is just brilliant. I'm sorry, his character is awesome. His character is awesome.
His character can spin off to its own show and start a certain other show line.
They're just gonna argue that why does he get a show and not the other guy
Yeah,
who technically got a season, but it wasn't great.
he had a season, he had a movie, and
Okay.
well, there's rumors that the movie might come back
How can the movie come back?
because Keanu is popular again.
Well,
It's,
well,
it's hot in the market again. So,
yes, and ageless. Okay. Um.
but if you're wondering, if you're a fan of the comic and you're wondering, do they hit what Doom Patrol is like? Um, if it's the Morrison era you're looking for, then I'll say yes.
Yeah, and I think that to be reasonable, it's like they really kind of hit the Morrison era feel.
Hmm.
Um. Although I think it was in season two that there were other characters who totally felt Silver Age, and
Hmm.
I loved them coming
Hmm.
onto the show
Hmm.
because it was such a nice like, no, this is how the Doom Patrol should be, and that sort of thing.
Yes.
Very very well done. And but yeah, but it's definitely a modern thing. And the one thing we haven't quite talked about, sorry, because he's officially not part of the original comic book team, but is a large part of the show is the unexpected bum ba bum cyborg.
Yes.
And I wasn't, it was really like, considering this came out in like 2018, 2019, then it's really like, really? We already have the Justice League movie, which has a cyborg. So why do we have a cyborg in the show who was never associated with Doom Patrol? Putting that all aside, though, oh my god, it's probably one of the best cyborg stories I have seen depicted on television.
Hmm.
And this is counting even things like Teen Titans and whatnot and
Hmm.
Young Justice. It's a really good cyborg arc, and it's
Yes.
definitely a more mature arc of his struggle.
Hmm.
I mean, like, cause the core concept of cyborg is that he is a guy who went through an accident, and his
Hmm.
father, being whatever
Scientist.
roboticist
Yeah.
scientist, is able to save his life, but only by infusing him with technology, which is not too dissimilar from Robot Man.
Yeah.
It's just that Robot Man, only the brain was saved, whereas in Cyborg he just kind of looks like a cooler Borg.
By having that story focused on Cyborg, they were able to approach it with a bit more drama and empathy. Because Robot's Man approach was just anger,
Yes,
and it was a nice
and
way
a
to
lot of f
contrast the
bombs.
two.
Mm-mm.
Because there was also that angle of Cyborg was very I hate you just like Robot Man, but was all promising about what his life could have been. Robot Man, on the other hand, Cliff Steele, was all about how his life was a waste and he should have just let me die. And now I'm stuck in this way. And wait, is this a second chance? But I'm just going to F it up again. And, it was such a contrast of how they're both dealing with the same problem.
Yeah, and then in inadvertently, Cyborg ends up being sort of the superhero straight man
Hmm.
to this misfit group,
Yes.
because while all of them don't want to be heroes,
And
he's still in that class. At least in the when
they
at the
all don't
start of
want to
the
be
show.
heroes and they're also weird. And
Yeah,
he's almost he's the most normal looking. Despite the fact he thinks he's horrible because he's half robot. If you look at them as a group, he actually looks like a hero. While the
yes.
rest look like, why is there a housewife among the superheroes? Why is there a guy in bandages with all the superheroes? Is that a reject from Wizard of Oz?
So all these things. So it was a weird decision to bring Cyborg into the show, but I'm not against it, and it has defined this TV run of Doom Patrol and how
Andre
he goes
mentioned
around.
Cyborg has now been part of JLA, Titans, Doom Patrol, and Teen Titans.
And what's the
Because
other?
Titans and Teen Titans are two different groups officially in the DC universe.
Yeah, and what was, and their Teen Titans go just to be really
Yeah,
annoying about it,
but
and
right,
then
the
yeah,
Teen Titans were a different group from the Titans. They weren't just
yeah,
the younger ones.
it's just bizarre. And then I forget. I know they didn't slap him into Young Justice, right? They didn't
No, I
bring
think it
him
was
into Young
Beetle.
Justice. Yeah, yeah, they got the Beetle, the other Beetle. Okay, okay. I was just wondering.
Mhm.
Okay. You have interesting trivia for us that is not spoilery.
Both Matt Bomer and Brendan Fraser were considered for the role of Superman in Superman Returns.
Hmm.
Um, no, the others are not that interesting.
I'm super happy with Brendan Fraser here.
Mhm.
I mean, like, um, his character is unusual. Many times played for comic relief, but
Mhm.
I think Brendan Fraser does really well with it. And then they really tug at his, struggle to stay to whatever retain his humanity, because um he is survived by his wife and child.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, became widow and then has no interest in getting back together with a robot creature. But it's like he really does well with this, even though it's mainly his voice.
I think what I like about Brendan Fraser is even if you know it's him playing the role,
Mm.
you don't feel it's him.
That's
You feel it's a
true.
different character.
That's true. I mean, you hear his
Because
voice throughout, and it's like you just
that's my
accept it's Robot
problem
Man. Yeah.
with other actors. Like the moment you hire Morgan Freeman,
Mm.
it doesn't matter what the role is. It's Morgan Freeman.
Because even to some degree, Timothy Dalton, sorry, can no longer play perfectly good characters anymore. I mean, like good guy characters.
Mm,
He's always like slightly malicious, and
mm.
which was played to really good comedic effect in Hot Fuzz. He was very good as the antagonist in that movie. Also, I just love the part where he's laughing and then the poster behind him
He's laughing.
is the same pose. Okay.
Andre does agree. He's a great actor. Good step and welcome again. We hope to see him in more movies.
Yeah,
There is
yeah.
talk supposedly of. I was about to say the Rocketeer. That's wrong. Um,
He was in that weird gangster
Scorpion
movie.
King.
What? The Rock?
The movie.
The Mummy.
The Mummy. There is talk of the Mummy
I
being
love how you
revived.
segue through it with the Scorpion King.
Because my first thought was the movie that proves you're bi because you love everyone and find them hot. The first Mummy movie.
This
Anyway.
is this is Toby's mummy theory that you are bound to like someone in the mummy.
Because, with the exception of what's his name, who is the engineer in Miss Saigon,
My life with Toby when talking about pop culture feels like a trivia contest that he doesn't have the answers to, but should we participate in actual trivia contest, he will never remember the names. That is how he's going to answer a trivia contest. Oh, I know that one. It's the guy who was in that movie.
and worse, I'll say something obscure like he was the villain in Taboo. What? I don't even watch that show. No, he was in the fourth episode. Anyway, but yeah, the Mummy. There is talk that the Mummy's being revived, and it's weird because if it's going to be a passing of the torch movie, they kind of tried to do that with Dragon Prince. Sorry, the Dragon Emperor,
Yeah, the one with Jet Li.
because that had the son already present in the show.
Yes.
So we'll see.
We will see. So I guess, and then I think a lot of people, which is the initial distribution of Doom Patrol was tricky because it was like exclusive-ish to DC Universe, which is like a very obscure streaming platform outside of the US. And then eventually probably got easier to appreciate once it got into HBO Max.
Mhm.
And it came out around the same time as the Umbrella Academy, which
Yeah.
because of the nature of Hollywood, then you can't have two quirky TV adaptations of superhero team comics of a sort.
And shame on all of you who are going, ay, ginaya niya Umbrella Academy.
No, so and then Umbrella Academy was on Netflix, which had a wider distribution.
Was
So-
also a more recent comic.
Was a more recent comic with very famous authors behind it.
Mhm.
And it and it's not saying it's a bad thing, but
Yeah,
then
not
like
a bad thing.
but
It's
they
just that
but they occupied a similar niche of quirky superhero team
Yes.
of sorts, and and dysfunctional team. So that was a interesting coincidence. But then I feel like then it made it harder to get more people on board with Doom Patrol sometimes
Mhm.
because most people just knew Umbrella Academy
But
because it was
even-
more accessible.
But even if you compare the two shows, it's really harder to
they're
appreciate
actually and they're actually very different.
because the humor in Doom Patrol is absurdist to the point that if you don't think absurdist was an art form to some degree, you'll just find it ang labo naman neto.
I mean, sorry. And this third season, where they are literally up against a group that calls themselves the Sisterhood of Dada. Yes.
I already can
Yes.
see some will watch it and go,
Yes.
oh, is that inspired by Lady Gaga?
That is a very likely possibility.
But Doom Patrol is a show based on a comic that did push the envelope. It literally had characters who would break the fourth wall and challenge the reader to do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
It would be the comic wherein You would have dialogue or word balloons that flip around characters so you can't actually read all the words. It was that sort of a comic, and the show nicely tries to capture those things. Similar to how Legion tried to really capture the insanity of the way Legion was presented in certain comics in the DC, in the Marvel universe.
Yes. And then I guess also like from the quirky thing which I always love, which like really ties to the is that beyond the pilot, every episode follows the titling format of Blank Patrol.
Mm.
So just going over the first season, it is literally Donkey Patrol, Puppet Patrol, Cult Patrol, Paw Patrol, Doom Patrol, Patrol, Therapy Patrol, Danny Patrol, Jane Patrol, Hair Patrol, Francis Patrol, Cyborg Patrol, Flex Patrol, Penultimate Patrol, and then of course Ezekiel Patrol. And this naming convention goes on throughout the seasons, and I love it. And I love it. I'm sorry, and Doom Patrol Patrol. Ah, it's such a good episode. I love Doom Patrol Patrol. Okay. Um yes, I think that's like okay, and we're just generally giving you a sense of our gushiness over it, but because of our effort not to spoil it for you, we're also not very specific
Okay,
about
some
things.
specific things, no, not specific, but some caveats. The show's definitely not for everyone, and
Yes.
and worse, the show won't bother to tell you everything to grasp it.
Yes.
So you might find yourself watching it and seeing a certain villain, and you start to understand. Okay, so those are the motivations of the villain. But wait, who is he? Where did he come from? Why is he? The
None of
show
that.
the show won't bother. But if you read the comics, you might find connections that make more sense because the show only gives you what it feels you need. And so far, I think we're happy with it.
Yeah.
We haven't found ourselves necessarily feeling that certain things didn't make sense given how we understand the world is absurd in that way.
On the flip side, you don't need to have read the comics
Yes.
to appreciate this show. If you like this sort of very avant-garde storytelling, narrative structuring, then dive right in. I mean, again, our closest comparison on TV is if you like things like the Legion
Mm.
superhero TV show, but Legion the X guy, not Legion of Superheroes, because we're still not getting that. Uh, but then it's easy to jump into this and then you can appreciate. But the comics are not essential. And even if you do decide to read the comics after watching the show, you will probably become more confused
Yes.
because that's the nature of Morrison writing things, but in
What
a good
else?
way.
The show also does not shy away from gross humor.
Mm.
So there's fart jokes. There's instances of gross, gooey stuff and fluids.
I'll literally say this at the risk of spoilers, but there are monsters that are literally butts with legs.
There's French kissing rats. Oh, no, sorry, French kissing roaches.
Yes,
So
yes.
the show is absurdist in that way. And if already from hearing this you think that something will gross you out and it's not for you, we understand. But then if you hear it and go, wait, and that's a superhero type of show, that's the appeal of Doom Patrol.
It is, and I super love. There's a lot of effort that was put into the character writing.
Mhm.
Definitely, everybody gets their moment to
Yes.
shine or not shine, or at the very least, you get a good understanding of everybody's trauma or
Mhm.
everybody's ongoing pain. Which is even deeper for characters like Crazy Jane because of the fact that why is she, composed of 64 different personalities in a single
Mhm.
body? There is a reason for it, and it's very well rooted in sort of modern understanding of things like multiple personality disorder. So very, very, very
Mhm.
smart, very smart. Um, um, I think the first two seasons are very, very strong, and also hew closest to the comics
Mhm.
in many respects. It doesn't necessarily follow a particular run in sequence,
Mhm.
but um, you'll recognize the shape of certain stories and how they came together. The third season's a bit of a jump, I think. It's a bit of a jump, and then Timothy Dalton's role is greatly diminished, but it still works. And if you have the patience and the trust in the show, when you get to the end, it'll be worth it.
But then adapting the characters from the page to the screen,
Oh,
so well
oh,
done.
oh.
An intelligent gorilla with a beret. It looks good.
Who
It works.
speaks all fancy and posh, carrying around the robot brain, sorry, a brain in a jar. Sorry, but yeah, that so good, so good.
Robot Man himself, you recognize him from the way he's been illustrated in some runs of the comic, because
Yes,
his look has also
mainly
changed.
Morrison.
But it does nicely
It's a really
capture
good
those looks.
costume. I love the
And
robot
then
man costume.
even some of the villains felt like they would be very hard to do, given how
Yeah.
they were drawn.
Yes.
But the comic visuals translated to screen works very well.
Even just Alan Tudyk, Mr. Nobody.
Yes.
When you first get to see him, it'll be really what the f? What is
Mm.
this? And it works really really well. And then other things is like I think are pretty good for what is still a TV show and TV budget. I mean like Flex Mentallo, while still not quite the flex everybody wanted, but he was still a great flex.
Hmm.
Still a great Flex Mentallo. Um, and then yeah, and then apparently there's a lot of criticism or like ridicule of Cyborg when he first appeared. But again, the it's still a TV show. It's still working with a TV budget, but it super comes through. And then I just read the writing is
Yeah,
very very strong.
I didn't like the look at first. I felt it was too campy. But then when
Mhm.
you see it in motion,
Yes,
it works because
and then because he just super stands out versus the rest of them.
and you so feel his frustration that, you know, one, you're brought back as a robot, and two, it's not even an awesome robot because, uh, as they show it in the show, parts get rusted over. He'll have parts that are malfunctioning. So suddenly that really quirky
And
look
worse,
works.
Star Labs is still monitoring everything he does. It's like, which I thought was a brilliant addition, which makes his father even kind of creepier.
And then you add the factor that he's sort of Captain America-ish in the sense that he's a man out of time.
Only because everyone's so old timey wimey. It's the reverse. He's a reverse Captain America. Because although Crazy Jane is generally contemporary, but some of
Mhm.
her other personalities are not.
Yes.
And it super works out. And then I think beyond that, I just love how they've how they've gone into each character. So Larry Trainer, his whole backstory, his gay tragedy, whatever, really really well done.
Hmm.
Rita Farr, oh my god, as the fallen actress,
And then
essentially.
Danny the Street
Danny the
was
Street.
just an amazing episode.
Danny the Street.
An amazing way to talk about. the
Maybe that
topics
should be like my
explored.
next big cosplay idea. I want to be Danny the Street. How do I be Danny the Street? You're thinking of ways. I'm scared. Okay.
So you can be Danny the Street. I'll be the mouse. The mouse has the best story
Oh gosh.
for the
Toby.
first season.
Oh gosh, Toby.
All those episodes leading to the mouse's story was just amazing.
It's a brilliant brilliant show. I am in the slow process of trying to read the Morrison comics now after having watched the show.
It's not an easy read.
I've gotten through the first volume, which is like the main nobody arc with the Brotherhood of Dada. Not even the Brotherhood pa nga eh. Oh no, towards the end there was Brotherhood. But oh my god. I mean it's not bad. It's just it's very raw Morrison. I mean like if you thought he was crazy in the times of like Final Crisis and stuff or his Batman
Well,
run.
that's refined already.
Yeah, that's super refined. This is
Yes.
like unhinged Morrison just having fun.
But you can see why we loved Morrison from the start.
Yeah.
That
His love of sort of meta narrative structures very
and
well done.
it's so fearless to write with that much, what's the word, courage,
Mm.
because it was literally, I'll probably explain it a few issues from now, so I hope you're there.
Yeah.
'Cause that's how he writes. 'Cause these are
Yeah.
serial comics. You'll be thrown the first two issues and it's, you now have a talking gorilla and now they're talking about this, and then there's these birds that are angry at each other, and you're like, what the hell is this? And then later on it starts to interconnect, and that's how it always has been. So
Yeah,
it's very very fearless to write that way.
And in all credit to the show, they have tried to take inspiration from that degree of fearlessness in the writing, and uh, they kind
Mm.
of went into that also. So that's why we love the show in that regard, and it's definitely one of those. It's like when we talked about previously our levels of TV. It's one of those things that Toby and I have to watch together,
Yes.
and so that we can fully embrace, enjoy it together. And admittedly, because we're weird that way, it is one of the few DC television things we still watch. I mean, we I don't have the patience
Mm.
for the Arrowverse for some reason. We only really like Supergirl, and
Yeah.
even then, Supergirl's still not high
Because
priority.
Arrow is not Batman, but they're trying to pretend he's Batman, but they can't afford to do a Batman show.
And then, yeah. And anyway, that's a whole different thing. But Doom Patrol just stands out. It is exactly our cup of tea. It's the kind of thing that we like, and we hope that our little discussion today gets more people curious enough to try it, or maybe it has warned you far enough away to never come to it. Hey, we provided a service. I hope you appreciate it. Anything else that we?
If you're looking to play games that are similar to Doom Patrol in feel,
Ooh.
unless you really play your superhero games with that type of absurdity, other similar serial games can include Itrasbi, which was a foreign language game that does have an English translation. And what was the other one? There was another one that was kind of absurdist as well. Oh, I don't remember. I guess I'll leave it at that. Well, Lacuna, if you really push it, but this is more spice
And
and
it's
surrealism.
really more also it depends also on how you play it.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are good. And these are for context, these are tabletop RPG examples.
Yeah.
For those who are unfamiliar. So these aren't video games and stuff.
For video games, you go to the old point and click adventures. So Monkey Island and the like.
That's
Because it
true.
does have
Because some
that.
of the connections are just puns and then like, oh, if you really want any of the old classic Sierra point and clicks,
Yes.
those are punishing. King's Quest series.
But those
There you go.
do kind of capture what the show is like in the sense of, wait, that's the solution? So I do hope you check it out. Our recommendation is to watch it.
Watch.
But
Watch Legion first, then watch this, and then I don't
actually,
know.
watch either first, but watch both and then tell us what you think.
That works. That works. All right. There's nothing else. I
That's it.
think that's about it. Thanks for joining us today. If you have questions or suggestions for future episodes, then fill up the Google form at bit.ly Baduy Pride Ideas. You can follow us on Twitter, all to be no shade, RJ
You can
Sunico.
also check out our blog, budaypray.com, for all the previous episodes and stuff about us.
Feel free to continue the conversation in the comments below and let us know. Hey, have you checked out the Doom Patrol? What stories do you like? What episodes did you enjoy? We would love to geek out with you. And be sure to
Doom
subscribe.
Force. Sorry, that was a
And
Morrison.
be sure to subscribe for notifications, whether on Facebook or YouTube, so you don't miss our next live stream. Once again, I'm Rocky.
And I'm Toby.
And this is
Baduy
Baduy Pride. Good night, everyone. Baduy Pride Patrol.
Love me. Don't look at me. Love me. Don't look at me.